So, another music review for you. Today I'm going to review the 1971 album Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. Now, I do follow this channel on YouTube by my friend Giggins, and any of you that follow him will know that he's an absolute fanatic with regard to the Beach Boys music, and he's covered every album from the first note to the last. So this is not trying to do a one-upmanship on you, Giggins. I just feel that I need to at least do one album by this band, and this is possibly the one album that I really fell in love with. Now, that's not to say that I don't enjoy the other albums, because I have moved my listening taste to cover more by them, but I want to really go back a little bit and give you a very brief potted history of the Beach Boys and where I came in. Well, I got most of this off Wikipedia. So 1958, Brian Wilson was 16. He lived with his family. He had two brothers, Dennis and Carl, 13 and 11 years old respectively, and their first introduction to music was via their father, who played the piano. Brian, though, was really into the idea of singing, and he listened to the harmonies of a band on the radio called the Four Freshmen, and he decided to try and teach his brothers to sing harmonies as he was learning to play the piano. He got a tape recorder, and then because the genius that sat inside his head, he started to learn to overdub, and so the creativity was set in stone, so to speak. A neighbour, a friend of theirs called David Marks, also added some guitar, and Carl learnt to play the guitar as well. They went to Hawthorne High School, and there they met Mike Love and Al Jardine, and all of them were very keen on a sort of 50s band where harmony vocals were basically predominant, called the Pendletones. Let's move forward a few years to September '61, and this corresponded with the release in December of that year of the first track that we could attribute to the surfing. It was called Surfing, and Dennis was a surfer, but the others weren't. And that actual release, when it came out, their name, which had been adopted from Pendleton to Pendletones, had been changed to the Beach Boys. And then, following a 7-year contract with Capitol Records in 1962, their debut single with Capitol was Surfing Safari, and then the hits started to roll out. 63, we saw Surfer Girl, Little Deuce Coupe, and then following the British invasion to the States from bands such as the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, Brian realised that to continually keep recording songs with a surfing element wasn't going to get them very far, and so the last surfing record was released in April 1964, and then we got into the 60s spree, beginning with I Get Around. Now that's where I come in on the act, because I was born in 1954, and so I wasn't really into music much until I got to the back end of primary and started to get attracted a little bit to the radio, 64, 65, and I constantly kept hearing this band from California called the Beach Boys. And it was virtually impossible, really, not to get humming to them. The string of hits, and I won't go through them because you know them all, kept on hitting the radio airwaves every couple of months. And so that's how I became a fan of the Beach Boys. But I saw them very much as a singles unit, as most people did at that time, although they were releasing albums. But albums was a thing of the future. My musical taste developed into listening to albums in 1967, 68. But before that, the Beach Boys were a singles band, and they have now, over the years, become far more than that to me. So that's my brief history and summary of how I arrived at 1971 and Surf's Up. So as always with my reviews, I've been going through track by track. I'm going to continue with this album, although I am thinking of possibly another strategy, but I can't really fault the track by track because it basically means that I don't miss anything. So we opened up with Don't Go Near the Water. It stomps its way into the album with impish harmonies, and then those choral notes that were very much part of the Beach Boys sound. And they hit you with that sort of chaotic synth-like noise midway that sounds a bit like a psychedelic paradise. And then we're to the bridge, and the choral sound returns with some exquisite Spanish-sounding guitar. That's what I heard anyway. So Giggins, you can correct me on this if I've missed a beat somewhere. Lyrically, I've got lyrics, as you will see as we go through the album, polluting the environment, which was a pretty radical thing in 71. It's fashion now, but back then it really wasn't. Brian really getting a dig at the environmental pollution that was striding across the planet, and basically a plea to take action. Next up's Long Promised Land, and what a gem it is. A punchy bluesy pop rhythm arrives with some great lead vocal, and the harmonies glide you to the next break. And there's a lead solo that's absolutely mega. The Beach Boys weren't renowned for lots of heavy guitar solos. They used it sparingly, but when they did, it was a commanding sound. And here it creates a spiral energy which drives this piece of pop music to a high caliber. It's almost rebel-rousing. Lyrically, it's about adult problems that started way back in the past, possibly in childhood, and then became self-made obstacles. And the message is to try and look forward rather than constantly be drawn back to the past and the problems that overcome you in the past. Step outside and move forward. Track 3 is Take a Load Off Your Feet. There's some neat vocals on this with car horns added for wacky impact, and it's got some nice sleazy horns. I think it's a bit of a piss take, really. Got a musical feel to it, and typical Beach Boys harmonies, and the percussion is particularly distinctive, and there's a nice little trumpet solo towards the end, which suggests a little bit of do in the harmony. Very Phil Spector-like, I thought. It's a Jardine song apparently, but I wasn't familiar with that until I found it out. It's lyrically it's about the fact that our bodies, our run-down bodies, require, of course, our feet to do the work, and it's a simple message really, to take care of them if we want to continue to move around. A rather whimsical look, I thought. Next up's Disney Girls, and this is certainly one of my favourites. It's one of those songs that immediately take you back to your early adolescence, and in the title, of course, is the year 1957, and it's a fantasy world, as we hear in the lyric. The harmonies are absolutely A1, and there's some delicate lead guitar that just jettisons you into that warm glow-like feel. It's a thing of beauty, to be honest, and it's lyrically, I guess, about the joy of fantasy, about the total immersion in that sort of world, California-like. Of course, the theme park in the title, and of course the notion of the summer of love and hippiedom. So there's also a suggestion of the drugs being an addition to help you towards that fantasy. First time I listened to this album, when I got to track 5 and heard Stuman Demonstration Time, I thought it was on there by mistake, because it's so totally different from all the rest of the tracks on the album, and it's got that large crowd with sirens added to the notion of a demonstration. And of course, America at the end of the 60s, early 70s was rife with students demonstrating, particularly against the war in Vietnam. It's a basic rock and roll song though, and as I said, untypical of the rest of the album, although the band are clearly having a ball. Piano driven rhythm and very electric guitar solos, albeit sparingly, and the sirens are used almost as additional instruments, and it's certainly rock and roll. The chorus, I thought about Sly Stone's There's a Riot Going On, but it goes on a bit. Lyrically, well, it's about free speech, and this was particular significant in California. Berkeley, of course, was a centre of a lot of student protest against the government. So it's a recognition of what was really happening on the ground. Feel Flows is next, opens up side 2, and it brings us back to a very sombre mood. Carl on vocals, it's floating waves and that distinctive keyboard and the harmonic dreamy style vocals. It's divine, it's a real gem. And then the golden guitar solo, like liquid gold, with flute and other psychedelic sounds to accentuate the drug-induced feel. And that's, of course, if you're on anything. If you're not, you can still get a great deal from the atmosphere here. The bridge shows some distorted synth vocals. I guess it's in keeping with the hazy feel of the song. Lyrically, beautiful words that project imagination, poetry, with questions about mind, body and spirit. Meditate your way to ease your mind's clutter, unravelling all the knots in your head, and feel. That's what I took anyway from it. Track 7 is Looking at Tomorrow, a welfare song. It has a moody feel, I thought. Nice guitar, acoustic guitar melodies with haunting keyboards, and then a doo-wop style chorus. but no sooner as it develops, it ends. Of course, it's about being jobless, feeling frustrated, wanting to be self-sufficient, but requiring a little bit of luck, which isn't on offering from the federal or local government. Have we heard that since then? Track 8 then, A Day in the Life of a Tree. Well, there's a church-style organ that rides behind the vocal. It quivers somewhat. Could be a funeral requiem for the tree, I guess. And the keyboard sound also has a touch of, well, I heard some harpsichord, which meshes intimately with Brian's narration-style vocals. Because of that, this may have some religious connotations, but I'm not sure about that. There's also a pump organ and pipe organ on this track. Get details of those instruments from the internet. And the choir-like harmonies sort of feed in midway through, and you get a full wall of sound from there on. It's a wonderful piece of music. Lyrically, it's about our environmental pollution, killing your trees. It's also suggested that it may have been a metaphor for Brian's poison in his body. The fact that he was suffering through the excessive use of drugs. And but fellow writer Jack Riley has said that the song was inspired following a one-on-one with Brian about the sorry state of the planet, and the single tree was a metaphor for the earth. Till I Die, very morose, beautiful harmonies. In fact, the vocal harmonies are 5-star throughout, really. It apparently symbolised Brian's withdrawal from music creativity. Very surreal, but crafted to perfection. The chorus of vocals sit above the lead, and they're so distinctive, and musically it's a bit more of church choral inspiration. The vocals are added and create a sort of a cappella of sounds towards the back end. There's an electronic vibraphone and machine drums on this track, so I'm told. This was Brian's existential crisis, and the lyrics are about the small insignificance of oneself. A life, a leaf, a rock, maybe a tree as well. The last track then, and they saved the best for last. Described as a masterpiece, really, by many. It's a Baroque psychedelia piece, and it's well wonderful. I can't really. I find it difficult to describe this track because the trumpets at the intro introduce us to an astonishing 4 minutes of pure Nirvana style music and singing. The simplicity is so powerful, and those high notes. And then there's a break at 1:30 with a piano solo and vocals to take you by the hand, really, to continue you on. And then the vocals speed up again before the crescendo leads you to the gates of Shangri-La, almost chanting angel-like as we lead to the outro. Now that is a much more positive picture than what I read later. The lyrics apparently are supposed to reflect on the collapse of society. Of course, the title is a surfer analogy, but it's nothing to do with surfing. porn seen as having huge impacts, but later becoming meaningless. The blind classes, the aristocracy being blinkered in life, sleeping when things around are being destroyed, and a contrast really of then and now. The story of how fragile things are, even beauty, with references to opera, music, etc., isn't seen by those who are in pain, and the muted trumpets, reflection on the fact that the vast majority of those suffering pain aren't able to even hear the joy of that instrument. I think it's pretty political, really, but you can interpret it as you wish. Very American, and it says a lot about the current problems today. The harsh reality being hidden, really. So it's certainly a song that you can spend quite some time having a look at, but it's definitely hypnotic and or inspiring and extremely powerful. So I'm just going to run through the lyrics now and give you a snippet from them all. I know the lyric sheets are here, but you may want to go back to them. In my experience, often when you listen to a review like this, you don't really read them, so listen to a brief extract and then you might want to go back and read the whole lyric. Let's start with "Don't Go Near the Water." Oceans, rivers, lakes and streams have all been touched by man. The poison floating out to school now threatens life on land. I think that sums it up. Let's go on to the next one now. "Long promised road. So hard to answer future's riddle when ahead is seeming so far behind. So hard to laugh, a childlike giggle, when the tears start to torture my mind. So hard to shed the life of before, to let my soul automatically soar." Okay, take a load off your feet. This is a little bit more sort of comedic. I do them when I'm down in the tub with avocado cream. They'll take a rub. They wrinkle like a raisin if I stay too long. I wouldn't want to do it wrong. They'll put you in the driver's seat and to the table when you want to eat. But when you go to sit down in your chair, something else has got to put you there. Fucking amazing. Right, Disney girls. Let's have a little look at this one. Disney girls then. "Clearing skies and drying eyes. Now I see your smile. Darkness goes and softness shows a changing style. Just in time, words that rhyme. Well, bless your soul. Now I'll fill your hands with kisses and a Tootsie Roll." Student demonstration. Starting out with Berkeley free speech and later on at People's Park. The wind of change fanned into flame, student demonstration spark. Down to Isla Vista, where police felt so harassed, they called the special riot squad of the LA County Sheriff. Well, there's a riot going on. Feel flows. Unfolding, enveloping missiles of soul, recall senses sadly. Mirage like soft blue, like lanterns below, to light the way gladly. Where the whistling heavens clouds disappear, where the wind withers memory, where the whiteness whisks soft shadows away. Looking at tomorrow, a welfare song. I've been laying on my back like a freight train off a track, trying to find a job to fit my trade, with the morning sun come around. Well, I'll be covering plenty of ground, and I don't need nobody to pay me aid. Pay my aid. A day in the life of a tree. Feel the wind burn through my skin, the pain, the air is killing me. For years my limbs stretched to the sky, a nest for birds to sit and sing. But now my branches suffer, and my leaves don't bear the glow they did so long ago. One day I was full of life, my sap was rich and I was strung. From seed to tree I grew so tall. Till I die. I'm a cork on the ocean, floating over the raging sea. How deep is the ocean? How deep is the ocean? I lost my way. Hey, hey, hey. I'm a rock in a landslide, rolling over the mountainside. How deep is the valley? It kills my soul. And finally, Surf's Up. A diamond necklace played the pawn, hand in hand some drummed along, oh, to a handsome mannered baton, bygone, bygone, a blind class aristocracy, back through the opera glass you see, the pit and the pendulum drawn, bygone, bygone. Okay, I hope that may have inspired you to read these lyrics, and I just want to say in conclusion that I'm very thankful for those who have become subscribers here, and if you want to listen to this particular album, all the tracks are on YouTube, and so get along and listen, and I'll be back soon with another new video. Your comments are always welcome, and I will answer every one. And be free to criticise. These are just my own passions.